We're here today on Country Pocket with Ismay. Their new album is Desert Pavement, and the first song you just heard is The Dove, the Shrew, and the Raccoon. Ismay, why don't you tell me a little bit about life on your family's ranch and what you took out of that experience?
Yeah, well, I moved to my family's ranch when I was about 21 years old, and I'd been working there for a few years, but I decided to move there. And, you know, the song is kind of based on a lot of the experiences I had being around more wildlife and more farm animals than people. So some of the songs that I write are more involving these kind of farmy characters. But yeah, it was a great experience working there. I was there for about 10 years, kind of working with the sheep and the horses and replanting the creeks and that whole deal.
Yeah, tell me about having an easy time relating to animals on that level, like getting inside their heads. How much time do you have to spend with them?
Yeah, I mean, when you work on a piece of land, you kind of have to understand what you're surrounded by from its own perspective in order to know what you're doing. You have to understand, why is there a deer here eating my vegetable garden? Or why do the cattle keep wanting to congregate around this one area? So, I mean, just the work itself requires kind of putting yourself in the mindset of those animals, I find. Um, and also, I did a lot of work working with horses and training horses. And that's one of those things where you're really intimately involved with animals and you're really thinking about what their perspective is on why they choose or don't choose to do something. And so, like, through horse training, I had to learn a lot about, okay, I may perceive this signal as indicating asking the horse to do one thing, but they perceive it differently. And the cool thing about working with animals is that unlike people, they don't really have the same narratives we have. And so you kind of have to just take them at their actions and not try to spin a story about, oh, they're doing this because they don't like me or whatever. Or because they in second grade somebody called them a name. That's not really how they work. And so it's a great opportunity to get feedback from animals or from the natural world too on, you get direct feedback about what you're doing that allows you to reflect on your own actions, I guess.
Yeah, much like the animals you mention in the song, you sort of threw yourself in there as the fourth animal, also looking to venture out into the world and grow. So tell me about venturing out into the world and pursuing music.
Yeah, so during the pandemic, as for everybody, things just really turned on its head. I had been kind of doing music half time and working on my parents' ranch half of the time. Pandemic happened, music was over, and then farming took over because, a lot of people couldn't come to work anymore. There's other people that work at the ranch, and so I had to step up and get much more involved with the ranching, which is kind of how I started out. And so I was faced with this decision when it was the pandemic of, okay, Avery, now you really have to decide, are you going to continue doing half and half and emphasizing ranch work, or are you going to really try to invest yourself into your music? And so I just had this opportunity talking to a friend of mine to just kind of be more explicit about my choice. And what I realized for me was that music was my passion and ranching was more of just my job. And therefore, I felt like after the pandemic, I had these opportunities to really put a lot more energy and time into my music and have that be my life's passion.
So you went out and did some pretty exciting things. You showed up on an Apple TV reality show. You made a documentary talking to some established musicians about Lucinda Williams. What did you learn about you in that process?
Well, I learned that being on camera is a lot harder than it looks. I understand now why people who are actors kind of go crazy because when you see yourself and there's all these comments about, well, why didn't I say that this way or why didn't I look that way? You become more self conscious. But in a deeper sense, I think when you see yourself speaking honestly, as I did in the documentary and the TV show, I think you can have an opportunity to really reflect on how you may come across to other people. And I think I struggled a lot over the years with, having confidence. I'm not really the most intrinsically confident person. And so getting to see myself on those platforms talking about my lack of confidence made me be able to see myself maybe how other people see me and realize I didn't need to continue spiraling in this, way I was kind of going. I felt like it was an opportunity for me to really realize that I had to move past, these insecurities that were being highlighted and just as, grow into the person that I really wanted to be.
So getting getting eliminated actually was helpful in the long run.
I think getting eliminated was, I mean, I would say I went into the show knowing that I don't think that my style of music is necessarily ever going to make mainstream country. um, I was surprised, honestly, that they hired me at all to be on the show, because they were kind of more focused on mainstream country. And so, I went into it knowing that I kind of just had to be myself, do the best I can, use it as a learning opportunity. But I would say, being eliminated there, it didn't kill me. It didn't kill my confidence. I think it made me have to push myself to work a little bit harder than I usually am in a performance because the stakes were so high. I was so nervous. The day before, when I was rehearsing for the performance that they were filming and then they were judging, I literally, like, my heart didn't stop racing for 24 hours. And I'm not kidding. Like, I basically couldn't sleep. I was like, heart racing, adrenaline the entire time. And being able to work through that and perform in spite of that. And the other thing, too, for me is that, I feel like being eliminated, it might have just been that I wasn't the right fit for what they were looking for. And I had to realize that, you have to find the people in your world that really respect what you're doing and not worry about impressing everybody. And so, yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing getting eliminated.
Yeah, I would say, especially your most recent album, it's really the right fit for this show. So you don't have to worry too much there. Um, we're gonna hear your cover from the show of Linger. We're gonna hear another song off the album, but first up, on the topic of you making a Lucinda Williams documentary, why don't you pick a Lucinda song that we'll listen to first?
I'll say one of my favorite Lucinda songs that I was introduced to during the filming, I actually wasn't familiar, is a more recent one that's called Are You All Right? And I believe it's off her album West.
All right.